You last week, time flies, unveiled your reopening plan. The government unveiled its own reopening plan on Monday. They are quite similar. They accuse your plan of giving New Zealanders COVID for Christmas. They appear to have taken a similar approach. Having unveiled your own plan, what is your reflection on the government's plan and the similarities?
Well, the government's plan isn't actually that similar to ours. They've got 3 phases of it. They've got no particular time frames. They've got no particular targets. They're not saying this is a target for vaccines. They're not saying there's a target for the COVID tracing apps. They're not fronting up with all their side of the bargain. And then we find out yesterday, the Prime Minister, with her latest press statement yesterday, she had the IT guys from the Ministry of Health coming along to talk about, gee, one day we might be able to have some electronic proof that we're vaccinated, and yet the UK's had it since May, the EU since June, and we're going to develop our own. What is wrong with these people? Why can't we use technology that's already proven overseas?
Right, just buy it off the Brits.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. A lot cheaper, and it will work.
I guess the pushback you'd get from the government with that accusation there is they are cautious of firm targets because they wouldn't want to say, look, if we get to 90%, then we can reopen, when actually in a particular age group, and the Prime Minister has said this, if in a particular age group we get 50% vaccination, whereas overall we get 90% vaccination, that's still probably not good enough. We need high vaccination levels across all sectors of the population. What would you say to that?
Give us a target. Give people a target. We've said you get to 85, 90% vaccination rate, and you've got in place all these other ingredients to our pillars, the ones that actually make a difference, then we're in a totally different situation. What they've done is they've set a general 3-step plan for opening up without any particular targets, and even then it's like, oh, you can do this in Auckland, that in Auckland. It's great to know you can now go hunting in Auckland. It's just those of us who normally live in Auckland are wondering where we're going to be doing this hunting. I mean, this is that craziness. It's like the people who put this together have never been to Auckland.
But on that point, would you be? I mean, you've historically been against population targets, but would you be in favour of considering, 90% across most sectors of the population if that meant reopening and knowing that most people were safe, so you don't get those black holes?
Well, we've said you get 70-75%. You probably won't have to do nationwide lockdowns. You get 85 to 90%. You should be able to operate, and you do all these other things. Vaccination's only is the most important part, but it is only part of the job that the government should have been doing. But when you're talking about over cross populations, we think you take the whole population as a whole, and that's what you go after.
And just finally, this morning, news that the government or MB sat on an email from Pfizer asking them for a meeting regarding the vaccine rollout. Last year, they sat in it for 6 weeks and didn't reply. What does that tell you about the speed of the rollout?
Well, it's a staggering indictment on what's actually happened all the way through this whole rollout for vaccinations. We're 6 weeks waiting on basically ghosting Pfizer to say, well, we're not too sure we want to talk to you. 6 weeks, then they were slow to actually order the vaccine. That order wasn't even, they didn't even sign the contract till December last year. They didn't actually order the first vaccination, the vaccine itself, till 29th of January this year. They've been slow all the way through, and we had 20% vaccination rate when this lockdown started. So it's entirely on the government. And MB is, of course, the government. The government, where's the minister? Where were the ministers in this? Why weren't they asking what's been going on? The answer is not a lot.
We've essentially been able to double our rates of vaccination, I think, in 6 weeks, from about 2.5 million doses on August 17 to 5.5 now. It does show that 6 weeks is a lot of time in a vaccination rollout. The counterfactual that you're putting forward is what?
Just get it done. Just get it done as fast as possible. 6 weeks is a huge time when it comes to the virus. And what we're seeing is Auckland's now been in lockdown for 8 weeks, 7-8 weeks. It's a huge time and massive cost to people mentally, financially, to their security. It is a huge cost. It's over $1 billion a week on the government's own estimates. That is, imagine what we could buy with that. To have had the government agency charged with getting the vaccines, messing around for 6 weeks, deciding whether or not they bother to apply to Pfizer, says everything.
The pushback you'd get on that argument is that the big roadblock was MedSafe. We can't get the vaccines into the country if MedSafe hasn't approved them. How do you fix that?
Well, it's easy enough. First off, you make sure you get yourself the order for the vaccine. And what we've said all the way through, you put the orders in, like they should be doing right now for the therapeutic drugs that have been developed overseas and that are being used now to treat victims of coronavirus, that you get those orders in and that you make them subject to the MedSafe approval system. That is what you do. And the cost of doing that, for those that even aren't used for some reason, that is nothing compared to the $1 billion a week that this country is losing and all the people who are losing everything that they've saved up for and worked for.